Hi everyone, it's Matthew and welcome back to the Southerner's Northern Garden. So I wanted to do a quick garden tour today because things are coming into bloom, things are going out of bloom, and the temperature here has been very odd. We're expected to get rain the rest of the week, so I probably will not be recording any content this week. So before that started, I wanted to get this video shot. The weather's been really weird. We had record lows a few weeks ago, and now in Ohio, in Western Ohio, it feels like we're sitting on the sun. So we're going to make this tour kind of short. I want to go over mainly the stuff that is in bloom and the things that have changed since my last video. So let's get going. We're going to start with the new fountain area that I put up a couple weeks ago. So before we get started there, I want to show you these beautiful roses, these David Austin roses here. This is the Poet's Wife. It is a beautiful yellow color. This rose in particular needs some serious pruning. I pruned it in the spring, and it's just kind of, instead of going upright, there's some limbs that are going like right here on the ground and way back there, so I'm going to get some pruning done to that one. In this area is the new flower bed that you have not seen yet. So I installed this fountain and set it up to kind of easily refill. You can watch that video on YouTube. It was my last one. And then I've kind of put around it some Yuki cherry blossom deutzia right here. Those have pretty pink blooms. They're all going out now. They bloom very early spring. And then I have some perennial geranium around there, some geum, this beautiful grass. It's called Northern Lights. It has a pink tinge to it later in the summer. And to fill in the space, since this area is all new, I have Supertunia Vista bubblegum, and right behind that is a black lace elderberry that will get very big. I wanted some nice Japanese maple type foliage in this area, and so that'll look excellent here in a bit. Because most of these are my herbs right here, I did a line of rosemary right here. This is Prime, Rosemary Prime. It's a Proven Winners variety. It's supposed to be hardy in my zone, so I stuck it directly in the ground. We'll see if it comes back next year. Along this area, you can see it's somewhat of a path. I still needed access to my herbs, so I'm going to be getting some stone like you've seen in other parts of my garden and just going along here and putting some stone down. The herbs are coming along nicely. I've got the earth boxes. I have not inserted the drip automation system in these earth boxes yet. I will be doing a video on that soon, hopefully. Normally I would have them in by this time of year, but other projects has delayed that. And we've been having some rain even though it's hot, so I haven't been on top of that yet. So I'm getting some nice peppers already. This is a Proven Winners variety called Hot and Heavy. The tag's right here. And it is the first thing putting on peppers in my garden. These are a different variety that I grew from seed. I'm not sure the variety. I will put it on the screen if I can remember. So the raspberries are coming along nicely. You may have seen on my Instagram. And if we come through the little arbor, you can see all the plants I'm holding down here, but we've got some blackberries as well that are looking great. So typically all of my peppers are on this side of the house. So I have these are a little spicier jalapenos, and then you follow those, and those are all bell peppers all across the wall there. I just got in my other Vigo garden bed. It took them a while to get in. I think they were having some manufacturing delays because of COVID and some other issues. So if you've ordered a bed, it should be coming in soon, and I really hope you like it. This is the 6-in-1 in gray, and I actually left out a panel, so it's a little shorter, and I kept those panels inside in case I ordered any in the future, and I could extend that one just a little bit. So there's a hydrangea here I've got to get potted up. I've actually ordered a pot. This is Limelight Prime by Proven Winners. It's new this year, and it is supposed to be an improvement of the regular Limelight variety and have stronger stems and better blooms. This kale is really interesting. I wanted to just show it off. So both this variety right here and this variety is Ragged Jack, but look how curly the leaves are on this one. It's kind of insane. So I've still got all my winter sowed seeds down here that I have not put out yet. Some hollyhocks and some echinacea. I really got to get those potted up or find somewhere in the garden for them. This is a crimson flame honeysuckle, and it's just gotten destroyed, as it typically does, by aphids this year. I'm contemplating removing it. I'm going to give it another season to see if it will recover. I did spray it with some neem and pyrethrin, which I believe is the organic version of permethrin, a few weeks ago, and that took a lot of care of a lot of the aphid problems. So it has some new pretty blooms coming on, and hopefully those will be nice here soon. If not, I may take it out because it is kind of hiding a boxwood I have down here. So my tomatoes are looking excellent. All of these I grew from seed, various varieties. Paul Robeson is one of my favorite ones, and then I have a mortgage lifter and lots of other varieties. I have one cherry down here, blueberry. I do have some other tomatoes in the back in the mini orchard that I added this year. I've never grown tomatoes in the ground on this property, so that was an experiment as well, and I'm just going to let them do their thing. They're spaced far enough out. I'm not pruning on them. I am keeping these pruned. They're about tall enough where they can be trellised, and I need to get on that and pruning some of these suckers since it's supposed to rain all week. These will certainly take off. My ranunculus, that was an experiment this year, is in full bloom. I will probably come out here and pick some of these before the rain tomorrow and put them in the house in little arrangements. These came from Floret Flower. I don't remember the mix exactly, but they're various shades of pinks, yellows, and oranges, and they're absolutely beautiful. So the roses are going in and out of bloom. This is Boscabelle. I need to do some deadheading on it, but they have absolutely gorgeous pink blooms. You can see there. The 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲 is completely bloomed out, and those blooms are fading. You can see here, they'll just fall off, and then it'll just be a nice green foliage for the rest of the season. The lavenders in front of the air conditioner units here are getting absolutely insane. This variety is a little different than the lavender hedge I have out front. I'm not sure of the variety specifically, but they do get massive. So this is probably about half the size that they'll get all season. Not a lot going on this bed. This is the south side of my house. This hydrangea is a quick fire. It is just now starting to go into bloom, and hydrangea season is almost among us. This is a firelight, and you can see it's also starting to put on tiny blooms here. Those will get quite large. So we continue around the front. We have a Desdemona rose here. It has beautiful white blooms that smell absolutely great. The foliage was getting eaten on quite a lot, and then I sprayed it with some neem, and that seems to have done the trick. We'll see if it keeps it up. I've got this on a little system here to try and keep it upright some more, since this is the east side of the house, and it won't get any afternoon sun. I'm afraid it'll start stretching, so I'm going to keep it tied to that trellis. We've got a beautiful foxglove here that has reseeded itself. It did not bloom last year. And then this is a Bobo hydrangea down here that I actually found a rooted clipping already in my garden. And I cut it off and stuck it in a pot and stuck it here last year, and it's doing great. Got some echinacea that's about to start blooming. This is the Helen Blonstein Lamsier that I love so much. And then here we've got the Crimson Queen Japanese Maple, the Invincible Wee White Hydrangea right here. And then we'll come around this way and we have another Invincible in this area. This phlox is Sprite Blush, I believe, by Proven Winners. I'm not exactly sure of the name. They were kind of a last minute buy at Lowe's, something that I wasn't looking for, that I picked up last year, and it is actually gorgeous in this area. Someone was asking on an update to my lavender hedge, and you can actually see how great it's doing now from that pruning I did. early spring. The interesting thing about this lavender hedge is the sun. Of course, this is east facing, so these down here tend to be a little more compact. And then as you move up where they get less sun, you can see they get a little scraggly, but they still remain gorgeous and bloom wonderfully for me, so I keep them that way. This is the Atlas Rose by Proven Winners. I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite orangey colors in the garden up here. This rose has struggled a little bit in this area. I think it's mainly because of this spruce, this blue spruce, but everything else does well, so I'm giving it another chance this year, and it's putting on quite a lot of growth. I'll keep an eye on it and keep the fertilizer and water on it, and we'll see how it does. This container I did not go over in the last garden tour. I have put Supertunia bubblegum in it and a grass called Fireworks by Proven Winners, and you can see in there it's a beautiful pink color. The grass will get quite large, but the Supertunias are kind of taking over first initially. If we come this way, you can see this garden right here. I've got several seeds started. I've got some zinnias down here I got to plant that I did in soil blocks, which I'd never done before, and this is probably going to be my new method of growing seeds, is soil blocking. So this is the front garden bed, which pretty much is a pride and joy of my garden. Here we have some heuchera that line the edge, some dwarf Visions in Pink Astilbe, which has been a very great Astilbe in my garden. I know some people have trouble growing Astilbe. These get, I would consider them part sun. They get as much sun basically as my Supertunias do up here on the railing. They may get a little less because of this magnolia, but otherwise they get quite a lot of sun. We got a Primo Black Pearl Heuchera here, which is absolutely gorgeous, and tiny Tough Stuff hydrangeas, which are just covered in blooms. You can see that one there. I did mention in a previous video that I put a lot of sulfur down in this bed to try and make these blooms pink, or try and make them blue. However, it looks like they may end up being pink anyway. This bloom's just starting to open and they're a little pink. So the geraniums are looking great. The Mango Salsa Roses by Proven Winners have just exited their first flush. They were new this year, so they did start blooming a little early, but we do have quite a lot of rose buds there that are about to open. These daisies I grew from seed a few years ago. They are one of my favorite things up here in the garden. They do have these really roughly blooms. This one looks a little rough. It is quite spent. However, it's gotten quite large. They may not get enough sun here, so they may stretch a little bit, but they do actually look quite good here in the summer, so I've left them. The fountain area is looking great. The Irish and Scottish moss has spread significantly this year. I'm actually going to be taking some of the Scottish moss, which is the more chartreuse color, and spreading it around the other walking path here soon to get some of that color over there, because I've not been able to find it locally since I was able to get those original ones. We've got some echinacea here, and this is another part of this front bed, which is basically a hosta garden. So I have various shades and various types of hosta foliage around here. Basically, these all started from single stems, I guess you could say, or single cuttings from hostas nearly 3 years ago. So that'll tell you how much hosta will grow just in a few years if you give them enough love and enough water. This is a rose called Roald Dahl by David Austin. I did not go over it in my last video. I'm hoping it will get quite large here with the pretty orange, light yellow roses. And it's on standard to kind of highlight itself behind these shrubs here. This is a blue chiffon Rose of Sharon that will actually look quite gorgeous here in another month or so with its blue blooms around all of this other foliage. So I did get my Ely garden hose reel in. It looks great on the side of the house here. I absolutely love it. It was a good choice to add one up here as well. So we continue around the garden. This is a container I set up as well. This is a purple salvia from Proven Winners and Supertunia Vista bubblegum here. I bought quite a lot of Supertunia Vista bubblegum. My local garden center actually sells it in 6-packs for around $15, $16 in the spring, which is a great buy. So I've never grown Vista bubblegum and we're giving it a try this year. I have certainly put it in a ton of different spaces. Then 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲 hydrangeas that I clipped back in my hydrangea pruning video are looking great. These are a continuation of the wee white, and this is their, I think, 3rd season in the garden. They were put in very late, so maybe a full 2 seasons you could consider them in the garden, but they're putting out some strong stems and are going to get quite large this year, it looks like. I'll spin you around here to this Bradford pear garden. Not a ton going on in here. Lots of hosta. I do have the hydrangeas that I saved from Lowe's here last year. They're actually the only macrophylla hydrangeas I have in my garden, and they are just now starting to put on their blooms for the season, and they're going to be pink as well. These are Invincible Ruby hydrangeas. There's a hedge of them here. This one looks like it needs a little bit of love. I may have to bring in some iron tone. Its leaves are a little chartreuse looking. So these had, as you may have noticed, Italian ice roses from Proven Winners, and they stayed in there all winter and they did not love it. So in its place, I put some Woo La La hosta from Proven Winners, which will get quite large, and I stuck some extra Bordeaux Supertunias in here to continue that color up here in the part shade of this Bradford pear. Got a row of Sprinter boxwoods that were put in last fall that have doubled in size already. So if you've not checked out the Sprinter boxwood variety yet, certainly give it a look. It is certainly worth considering putting in your boxwood hedge. These are Sun King Aurelia. They're an absolutely gorgeous yellow foliage for a shade garden. They get quite large and they're quite a standout here to look at. We'll continue on this way, and I want to show you my Empress Woo hosta again because it is absolutely looking amazing. The biggest hosta I have in the garden, the biggest hosta in the world. We'll continue along the side of the house. So this view is a little different than you saw it last time. The hydrangeas are getting absolutely massive. The Clematis, the Stand By Me Clematis, are looking absolutely beautiful here. And you can see these incredible hydrangeas are getting quite large this season. This is again their 3rd season in the garden, and we're starting to get our first blooms. These are a little small. They will continue to get larger. So even though they've started blooming out, keep a look on my Instagram and I'll update you on the size of this one before they go out of bloom. And you'll see them in another garden tour in another few weeks or a month from now. These is also one of my favorite parts of the garden. So I have this Clematis. I went over in an Instagram story the other day. I have this weird double bloom here on this Clematis that's not like any of the others. It's very interesting. And then I have some more Outlast roses by Proven Winners. This is a Olivia Austin rose by David Austin. I stuck there in the corner, and these are the Bobo hydrangea hedges, and I had some extra Supertunias I had laying around, so I stuck those in there. So we've got the Bobo hydrangeas, and then the Limelight hydrangea standards, followed by the Catmint that's just now going out of bloom, but is still covered up with pollinators regularly. And one thing I wanted to show in this bed specifically is this Baptisia. So this Baptisia was just put in last year, and I wasn't expecting it to get this big this year, and it is absolutely massive to only be a year old. So when you think something may not grow that quickly, definitely take a look at Baptisia again. This one's actually even larger because it was not removed. As I mentioned in my last tour, this bed right here, all of this area is new, but this one was particularly ridden with really bad clay, and every one of these plants in here had to be removed maybe of June last year and replaced. or just removed and the soil amended and then put back in the ground. I lost the Limelight Hydrangea standard because the soil was so bad, which I replaced, but everything else survived since I managed to get it out of the ground and get the soil amended. So I'll be going over how I amended that soil in a video coming up. It's certainly something I need to do here soon. With all this rain coming up, it still makes me nervous. We're gonna have rain for 5 days in a row, and it still makes me nervous when that happens because I'm concerned these plants will still struggle, but we'll see. They've done quite well the past year. So now this bed is a great demonstration as to what you can do in a year in a perennial border. Everything in this bed except the willow is brand new as of last year. There's not anything in here at all that isn't brand new. So this Limelight Hydrangea I mentioned in the last video was struggling a little bit. It has actually done quite well now that it's perked up and put on quite a number of growth. So we have this David Austin rose here that is unnamed, I've mentioned before, that was sent to me instead of the Olivia Austin rose. It has beautiful orange flowers on it though, so I've kept it around because it produces just a ton of buds. You can see those rose buds there. Everything else is coming along excellently. We got some perennial geranium here. This is a second year shrub from a 4-inch container. This is the Proudberry Coralberry by Proven Winners. So I picked it up from Hertz Gardens, I've mentioned several times, as a 4-inch container. And just look at that growth that it's put on in a year. It is full size, at least 3, approaching 4 foot tall, and 2 to 3 foot wide. And it will have those beautiful pink berries on it here. In another couple months, it'll start producing them. This is a Tranquility Rose by David Austin, beautiful white rose. It does not hold its flower buds up very tall in my opinion, but this is its first full year in the ground, so we'll see how it does. It's got tons of rose buds too. So rose season, some roses have started blooming, some have not, and they're just now kind of coming into their own. This is a catmint variety that I am not sure about, but it is absolutely looking gorgeous. This catmint lived in the front around the magnolia, and it just struggled. There were actually 5 of them at the time. 2 of them did not make it, so I transplanted them back here last year, and they are living their best life in this clay soil. These are Pinky Winky hydrangeas, which are also living their best life back here. They have doubled, if not tripled in size, and are looking excellent. The Daisy May daisies are about to just explode into bloom here, so we'll have a nice drift of Daisy May here, and they're backed by the Midnight Masquerade Penstemon by Proven Winners, which for a 1-year perennial in the ground, you can see how big those have gotten. It's quite incredible. These are Strawberry Foxglove that I grew from seed last year. I had 2 of them. 1 did not survive the winter, but I love that color. It's just gorgeous. Let me get down here so you can see it. So we'll continue around this way. There's not a ton to see. This Liatris is just completely thick. All of these corms came from Costco last year, so this is their 2nd season, and they are huge, and it's just going to be a bunch of plumes of purple flowers here in the next couple of weeks maybe, and then it'll be a pollinator magnet. We have the Red Hot Poker, which I went over in my Instagram story. These were grown from seed. Red Hot Poker grows excellently from seed if you've never grown it before. This one bloomed first. Since these are grown from seed, they are they're open pollinated, so they'll have different bloom times and slightly different colors. This one's a little lighter than the other one. So this area will be changing quite a lot. We are going to, since we have a new dog, get an actual fence put in. We did have an invisible fence. So the fence is going to cut somewhat between this bed here. It's going to come like this way right here. And so I will be moving some of these shrubs around, but fences, everyone's behind because of COVID. So it's going to be probably August before that happens. And so August, September. And so I'm just going to leave everything as is, let it get through summer, and then let them install the fence and then move things around from there. As part of that whole thing, this whole area right here will be mulched. with the fence, and I've planted my rising sun redbud that had been sitting around for quite a long time in this area, and it will be kind of up next to the fence, which will run right here. And a beautiful accent shrub. Only gets 8 foot tall to 8 foot wide, and it'll look nice next to this willow and will provide a little shade for this area. So before we finish, I want to take you back here quickly around this way and show you a couple more shrubs and then show you how my dahlias are progressing. So these are echinaceas here, and then we have some peonies that are going out of bloom that need to be trimmed up, and this Winecraft Black Smoke Bush by Proven Winners. I absolutely love this variety. It is quite slow growing, so this is its, of course, second season as well. And it's growing much slower than I expected it to, but the foliage is still beautiful. This perennial geranium I grew from seed is absolutely taking it over. Can you imagine that was grown from seed? It's incredible that you can grow perennials from seed and they get that big in their second season. These are 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲 hibiscus, so there's one, and then another one right behind it. These will probably eventually have to be moved, maybe next year because of this willow, but I think they will be okay this year, even though this willow got significantly larger. And this is a grass by Proven Winners called Totem Pole, so it'll get nice and have nice blue foliage here as a background accent. This bed right here, I'll show it right quick. I have these boxwoods that I saved and moved from another part of my garden because they had significant dieback last winter, so the winter of 2019-2020, and I'm going to be putting them in a circle around this bed and putting zinnias in the center of it along with these liatris for this season. So the zinnias you saw up front in soil blocks are basically a rainbow of colors, and I'm going to be putting those in here with this bed. So let's take a look at the dahlia bed right quick. So the dahlia bed is coming along nicely. You can see nearly all of my dahlias are up. There are two varieties. One, which is Cornell Bronze, which has not shown its face yet. And another one that I'm not sure of the specific variety, but it come in my mix from Eden Brothers. And it has not shown its face yet either. So we are gonna give those some time to get started. The Vigo garden bed has been excellent. I did get drip run to it. I'm going to be doing a video on that soon, just so it's gonna be a drip 101, the basics, so you can learn how to get drip to your garden, because it can be quite complicated. It's not as complicated as everyone thinks. There's just a lot of moving parts to it. So this will hopefully help simplify it. I've got some tomatoes back here. These are tomatoes I mentioned I'm growing in the ground. I'm not growing tomatoes in the ground on this property yet, but there are various varieties. Some of them I have tags, some of them I do not. Even though I grew them all, they just kind of got lost. So this one's actually Garden Treasure by Proven Winners. So we'll see how that one does in the ground, and I also have a Garden Treasure up in the raised beds. So it'll be a good experiment for Proven Winners tomatoes and see how they do. This one's Blueberry, which is my favorite cherry. So I also have one of those in the ground and one of those in the raised bed. And I think that's it, guys. Thank you guys for joining me. I wanted to get y'all and show y'all what these beds look like before we get a week's worth of rain, because some of the roses will not take very kindly to that and they will look pretty terrible, and some of the other plants will get pretty beat down. But a week's worth of rain will certainly make the garden take off. So there's going to be a lot of changes in the next week. Things are really going to start growing very quickly, especially if we have any thunderstorms with that soluble nitrogen that adds to the rain. And I hope you guys will like, subscribe, and follow along. Lots more things to come this season. Things are looking excellent, but there's still goodies out there. Thank you for joining, and remember, in a world full of hate, be a light. Bye, everyone.